It's that time of year again. Those quiet days around the holidays when even the most diehard gamers put down the controller long enough to pretend they're not thinking about their backlog. And honestly, we're no different. So today, instead of a deep dive into cartridges, consoles, and complicated development histories, we're taking it easy. Join us as we look back at the year that was, revisit the games and stories that defined 2025 here on the podcast, and maybe even admit which episodes nearly broke our brains in the research phase. It's our annual breather, our victory lap, and our chance to kick back with you as we wrap up another year on today's trip down memory card lane. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope these words find you well. Hello and welcome to the 278th episode of our video game history podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. Each week we'll tell you one story relevant to Crew Week in gaming history. It can be about a game or the people who've created it. It can be about a console or the technology that brought it to life. We often talk about the companies that bring it all together, making our hobby video games a reality. While bringing you each story, we hope to teach you something new about the topic, what it took from the world as its inspiration, or what it gave back to the world in its legacy. With that being said, that's kind of not what we're doing today. It's our usual introduction, but at the end of every year, we kind of take a break from our usual heavy research load. As the year winds down, we typically pause to look back at the previous year, at the games that we explored, the stories we've uncovered, at the moments that made this another great, fantastic year for our podcast. I'm David Casson, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, who has survived yet another year of listening to me enthusiastically explain things like the internal logic of pinball scoring and the philosophical implications of Seaman. He's my brother Rob Casson. Rob, be honest, did you learn more about the games this year, or
Yes,
did it
Dave.
just teach you more about me and my questionable research obsession? Fair answer. Fair answer. Well, today we have a little short episode. We never run this one for a full hour. We decided to give our listeners a break, decided to give ourselves a break, frankly. But it is a week like any
All right,
other.
well, kicking it
So,
off on December
Rob,
23rd,
why don't you share with our
1986,
listeners what else
Stadium
happened
Events was
during this
released for the
week before we get
Famicom
into the rest of
in
it?
Japan, developed by Human Entertainment and published by Bandai. Designed to work with the family trainer, later known as the Power Pad, the game let players physically run, jump, and compete in track and field events using a floor mat controller, an early attempt at motion-based gaming decades before the Wii era. While the gameplay itself was straightforward, featuring events like the 100-meter dash and hurdles, the title would later gain legendary status in North America due to its extremely limited release before Nintendo bought the rights, rebranded it as World Class Track Meet, and recalled the original carts. As a result, Stadium Events has become one of the rarest and most sought-after NES cartridges among collectors. Despite its simple roots, the game stands as an important piece of early fitness gaming history and a fascinating example of how scarcity can shape a game's legacy.
We had the Power Pad. That thing was.
Yeah, it's pretty
It
sketchy.
worked. Not great, but
Next
it worked.
up on December
That's all I'll
22nd,
say about that. It
1989,
was sketchy.
Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse was released for the Famicom in Japan,
It is.
developed and published by Konami. Serving as a prequel to the original Castlevania, the game followed Trevor Belmont as he teamed up with Sitha, Grant, and fan favorite Alucard to stop Dracula's rise to power. Dracula's Curse returned to the pure action platforming style of the first game, while introducing branching paths and multiple playable characters, features that added replay value and strategic depth unprecedented in the series at the time. Known for its challenging difficulty, sharp level design, and unforgettable soundtrack, the game is widely regarded as one of the strongest entries in the franchise's classic era.
It's a fantastic game. It was my favorite of the original three. I am also a fan in calling it the strongest entry in the classic era.
Well, I only ever played the remake of the first one, so yeah, my
You
opinion.
know, you know.
Oh yeah. Next up, on December 25th, 1997, Tomba was released for the PlayStation in Japan, developed by Whoopee Camp and led by former Capcom designer Tokuro Fujiwara. This charming side scrolling action adventure game followed the pink haired child Tomba as he set out to recover his stolen heirloom bracelet from the evil Coma pigs. Blending platforming with RPG like quest structure, the game featured a lively world filled with quirky characters, nonlinear exploration, and dozens of inventive objects. Its expressive 2D sprite work, humor, and creative puzzle design set it apart from many early PlayStation titles, and although Tomba achieved only modest sales at launch, it became a beloved cult classic whose reputation has grown significantly over time, remembered fondly for its originality and adventurous spirit.
We owned that. I don't know where it is these days, but we had Tomba. It was a platform game. I don't remember much of it. I should go back and look at it.
Yeah, I don't remember that one at all. Next up, one I do remember. When on December 21st, 1998, Baldur's Gate was released for Microsoft Windows, developed by BioWare and published by Interplay. Built on the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition rule set, the game brought the Forgotten Realms to life with unprecedented scope, storytelling, and tactical depth. Players embarked on a sprawling journey across the Sword Coast, assembling a party of memorable companions while uncovering the mystery of their own divine origins. Praised for its rich writing, real time with pause combat, and immersive world building, Baldur's Gate revitalized Western RPGs and set a new standard for the genre. It also established BioWare as one of gaming's premier narrative studios. We cover the full story behind its development and legacy in episode 225, so give it a listen if you'd like to dive deeper into the realms of Faerun.
Ooh.
Indeed.
We played Baldur's Gate 3 this year. Not together, though.
Correct, not together, but we both have played it
We did play it this year. Yes, indeed.
and
Great
talked about it.
series.
Crazy.
We did. Great series.
Was it this year that we talked about it?
I'm
Beginning of the
pretty
year?
sure.
No, it
Maybe.
was last year. It had to have been because it was December. Duh. Ha ha ha.
Duh. This time last year.
Exactly. Last up for this week in gaming history, on December 21st, 2006, Lost Planet Extreme Condition was released for the Xbox 360 in Japan, developed and published by Capcom. Set on the frigid, bleh. Set on the frigid, hostile world of Eden 3, the game followed Wayne Holden, a soldier suffering from amnesia, as he battled insectoid creatures and rival human factions while struggling to maintain precious thermal energy in the planet's sub zero climate. Showcasing Capcom's MT framework engine, Lost Planet earned attention for its impressive visuals, massive boss encounters, and mix of third person shooting with piloted vital suit mechs. The game's snowy environments and constant need to gather heat added a unique survival twist to the action. Praised for its presentation and fast paced combat, Lost Planet became a notable early hit on the Xbox 360 and later expanded into sequels and spin offs, solidifying its place as one of Capcom's standout new IPs of the 2000s.
Did you ever play Lost Planet?
Nope.
Yeah, it never got on my radar either. I just kind of missed it. I missed it. Oh well. A lot of people liked it. It was a very popular game when it came out, but not for everybody.
True that, Dave. Well, Dave, another year has come and gone, and 2025 was packed, absolutely stacked, with fascinating stories, unexpected rabbit holes, and at least one episode where we had to stop and ask, how on earth did this get made?
Yes, indeed. We kicked things off this year with Battle Arena Toshinden, diving into the early days of 3D fighters, polygonal experimentation, and outfits that somehow defied all known fabric physics. From there, we jumped around gaming history like we were just speedrunning the calendar. We explored modern legends like Darksiders, Resident Evil 4, and Gears of War, each with their own developmental twists and industry shaping innovations. And then we took a sharp academic turn into the history of pinball. That was a great, great episode. It had legal drama and a ton of technological evolution. Did you know that pinball was banned at one point and they were broken up and thrown into the freaking river?
Say what?
Say what? Classic RPG roots resurfaced throughout the year. We revisited Dragon Warrior 2, Phantasy Star, Secret of Mana, and Morrowind. Uh, we celebrated some foundational console history with episodes on the Wonder Swan, the Intellivision, and more recently, the Atari Jaguar, a console that continues to be an absolute, like, what the heck were they thinking console.
This year also gave us plenty of character and franchise deep dives. The Simpsons, Star Wars Arcade, Perfect Dark, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Paper Mario, Banjo Kazooie, Battletoads, and even Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, which continues to prove that geography is most fun when it comes with theme music. We looked at formative industry forces too, like the rise and fall of E3 and the strange, enthusiastic saga of the US national video game team. I mean, a
So
primate playing games.
still my favorite.
Insane.
Still my favorite. Guy in a monkey suit.
A primate playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we had our share of oddballs and cult classics. D, Trauma Center Under the Knife, Seaman, Enslaved Odyssey to the West, Phantasmagoria, Road Rash, and even the eternally discussed development saga that is Duke Nukem Forever in development.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we cover that one, it feels like staring into a development black hole where time has absolutely no meaning.
And of course, we rounded out the year with heavy hitters like Age of Empires, Wing Commander, Electronic Games Magazine, The Binding of Isaac, and yes, after many requests, we finally made it to Super Mario Bros. 3. Honestly, looking back, 2025 was an absurdly rich mix of genres, eras, companies, controversies, innovations, and a handful of titles that probably made listeners say, wait. I think I vaguely remember that existing. But that's what makes podcasts fun. The big stories are great, but the odd corners of gaming history, that's where the real joy hides. So, Rob, what were your highlights this year?
Well, Dave, coincidentally, I happen to talk about quite a few of them. Um, you know, Looking back, Simpsons Arcade, got to play that with a pretty cool dude. It was a fun time.
Yep, agreed. We had fun playing that.
Uh, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, without it, I never would have had Siege. And you know that even though I'm not good at it, I love my Siege.
Yes,
So
indeed.
there's that. Um, One we didn't touch on, but was an absolute fantastic game and one of my favorite growing up, and one that me and Christina played all the time together. Crazy Taxi.
Yeah,
Getting
yes,
to learn
indeed.
about that crazy wild game, and things that brought back memories like Resident Evil 4, and watching my roommate play the shit out of that one. Even still to this day, he still does. Kingdom Hearts, same guy. Watched him play the shit out of it when we lived together. So just this year was a lot of stuff I knew, but on the flip side, just as much that I had no freaking clue about. Like we talked about the e-reader
We
recently,
did.
the Bandai Wonder Swan. Never knew what that is. And I'm sure there's plenty more. You'll go to the episodes, you'll listen and be like, yeah, Rob has no idea what's going on. Um, Rambling at this point, but honestly, it was a great year overall. A lot of things for me. Can't really claim one highlight overall, but that's the joy of this is we do this every week. There's a lot of things you remember, a lot of things you have to go back and listen to remind yourself.
Yep.
That's the joy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what about yourself? Do you have any big highlights from the year?
I look back on that list and I think about all of the cool stuff I didn't know, like, pinball being banned at one point and the fact that Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six was developed alongside the book. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep, definitely.
Where in the World in Carmen San Diego literally started out as another version of Colossal Cave Adventure, and someone was like, what if we did that with geography and every cave had treasure and blah, 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 blah. And somehow Colossal Cave Adventure turned into Carmen San Diego. I think that is absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, like, looking back at Seaman and having to learn about how it built its narrative structure and how big Phantasmagoria was because it was literally built as a Hollywood film set. Seeing how Chris Roberts' influences from Wing Commander are still seen in his game nowadays, which is Star Citizen. Uh, Looking at how Edmund Macmillan's emotions governed his development of the Binding of Isaac. That was pretty cool. And of course, my favorite was probably always going to be the U.S. national video game team. That is just insane, an insane story, no matter what way you look at it. If you look at the Electronic Circus, which we joked about, the guy originally wanted to have one of one of the what am I looking for? Events or something that one of the things you go to the circus to visit to be a monkey playing Pac-Man. Whether or not he succeeded, you'll have to watch or listen to the episode. And then the U.S. national video game team itself, when they finally went on tour, it was an absolute disaster. I like they were broke before they left on tour, and they tried it, and I'm not sure how those kids survived. So it absolute insane story. It's just been a lot of fun. I think from the research and writing standpoint, we've kind of really come into our own. I think there's a lot of really solid stories that are well rounded this year, and it's been a lot of fun. In all honesty, it has been a lot of fun. So um,
Absolutely. And another part of that that's such a big thing is all of the guests that we've had throughout the year. You
we've had
we
guests.
we have surprisingly. And a lot of them are people that if you're a repeat listener, you may have heard before.
We had guests.
Yeah, Dave. Most of them are your friends, if not all of them.
Yeah, we had guests this year. We had a lot of guests this year. It was a lot of the greatest hits of guests this year, wasn't it? That we brought into the mix, the
Uh,
Ryans and the Daves and the Erics of the world.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure we even had an Adam in there at one point.
Ooh, we had a lot of people visit us this year. It's been a good year. Been a good year for the guests. I think that's a great place to put a bow on 2025, Rob. And as always, before we officially close out the year, let's take a little peek at what's on deck for 2026 because, well, you know me, I'm a planner. The calendar is already filled out, color coded, and alphabetized. I may or may not have added footnotes.
Yeah, no, he's already had this thing since 2025 started, so,
I have the calendar planned out to like 2030. Let's be fair to the
I
situation.
was not going to be that specific, but yeah, no, there's no joke about that. It's going to take something pretty big to change any of our plans for the next few years, which, if you're a repeat listener, guess what? We're not going anywhere, bitches.
What can I say? I'm a planner. When I can't fit a topic I want to talk about into one year, I move it forward to the next, and then the next, and then the next, and suddenly I have multiple years filled out. It's fantastic. You will all be able to see the entire year calendar when the year switches over. The calendar pages is now set to reflect the current year we're in. So January 1st comes around when you're celebrating the new year. Check the calendar out. It'll show you all the fantastic topics. But, let's take a look at some of them. Next year is shaping up to be probably one of our more eclectic lineups yet. We're kicking things off with some early era classics, games like Rogue, Alternate Reality The City, and even golf, which I'm using as an excuse to talk about the history of golf. This gives us a chance to look back at how modern design philosophy grew out of some extremely simple beginnings. And speaking of foundations, we're also finally covering the Atari 7800 and the Atari Program Exchange, two other pieces of histories that show how the industry continued to reinvent itself in the 1980s. On the blockbuster front, 2026 has no shortage of heavy hitters. We'll be diving into the worlds of Street Fighter 2, Quake, Portal 2, Civilization, Titanfall, and Batman Arkham Asylum. Each
Wow.
one, I know, right? Each one of those is a game that's left a major imprint on its medium, whether through mechanics, storytelling, online play, or sheer cultural footprint. And of course, we have our usual fan favorite franchises. We're talking Lego Star Wars, Metal Slug, Soul Calibur, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, And yes, we are going to visit Mario once again with Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, a game that taught an entire generation that sometimes a sequel is just your developer saying, hey, what if we made everything harder?
True.
But per usual, what rounds out our calendar for each year are the oddballs, the games that sit just left of the center of the gaming universe. We're looking at the atmospheric minimalism of Limbo, the surreal weirdness of Nosferatu, the aquatic tranquility of Echo the Dolphin, and we're going to visit Sesame Street, which
Uh, Alrighty then.
I fully expect you to tease me about that for like 3 episodes. Not only that, but we're finally giving Barbie fashion designer its due credit.
I ain't
Because
hating on that one. Let's fucking go.
that, absolutely, it just belongs in any conversation about gaming history. And if you're not into our games, you like to visit our podcast to learn about the hardware or potentially learn about parts of our industry, I've got episodes planned on the IBM personal computer, the evolution of Steam, the Nintendo GameCube, and
Woo.
if my plans pan out somewhere, probably for a special episode, I plan on doing a special episode on how online gaming has evolved, how the internet has been one of the most transformative inventions in the history of gaming. So, whether you're into foundational classics, overlooked gems, wild experiments, or franchise tentpoles, there is something for everyone next year. It is waiting to be it's shaping up to be a really exciting mix of episodes, and we can't wait to explore it all with you. Of course, if you want to check out any of these old episodes we talked about, or perhaps the new ones in the future, you can always do so anywhere you get your podcasts, or by going to our website at www.memorycardlane.com. Rob, what else can people find on our website?
Well, Dave kind of already mentioned the calendar that talks about what we'll be talking about this year. So that's my normal shtick, too. So I guess I got to tell you about the other stuff, which is going to be links to our Discord where you can come chat with Dave and I and tell me how you're sick and tired of hearing the same things over and over again. You can find our Patreon where you can help support us and get access to all the ad free and unedited versions of our episodes. And you can find links to our social media that we never use, where I am on several platforms as Rob underscore O underscore Raptor, and Dave.
I can be found on various platforms as David is Wrong. And last time for the year, each week, we'll tell you one story relevant, the current week in gaming history. It can be about a game, a person, a technology, a console. We've covered a few places even. We'll tell you each story. We hope to teach you something new about the topic, what it took from the world as its inspiration, or what it gave back to the world in its legacy. When we sit down to research new topics, we get excited when we find out new things to share with you. It's a fantastic cycle of learning and teaching, teaching and learning. And in celebration of said cycle, we like to talk about our takeaways each week. So, Rob, what do you think you learned this year?
That I can't remember anything I've learned.
Yeah, same.
The thing is, there's so many random facts thrown in there. You'd remember more. There's obviously things that pop to mind. We mentioned them in our favorites. The Olympic team is one of them that just never gets old. The fact that there's a game named Seaman out there is fantastic. Um, it's always fun to hear stories of how companies almost didn't make it and turned it around, or ones that just went for it, and sometimes they failed. Even the big ones. 0% on the market for a sale for I forget if it was a game or a console. You would remember that one better than me. But all in all, a lot to have learned.
That would be the Atari Jaguar
Thank you. See, you knew it. That's what I'm talking about. I remembered the numbers. I just couldn't remember what it was.
with its whopping 0% market share.
Exactly. Which, again, you remember that there was actually something out there that hit 0%, which is just mind boggling.
Absolutely crazy. Absolutely
So,
crazy.
there's so much to have learned, but so much to have relearned once I go back and listen to the episodes. So, let this be your encouragement. You can't remember everything, so go back and listen to our episodes. That's where you learn.
It's indeed where you learned.
So, Dave, what about you? What's your fantastic learning experience of this year?
I think I covered most of it as I was talking about the episodes. My favorites like pinball being banned and Battle Arena Toshinden being the first fully three, the first fighter to pop into 3D, and Tom Clancy Rainbow Six being a book alongside the game that blew our minds at the time. I like the fact that Carmen San Diego is was just Colossal Cave Adventure repurposed. There's just so many random cool things in here that we get to look at every week. I'm just thankful to still be doing this after what are we 5 years in now? With
Oh,
yeah, roughly
holy shit.
we're 5 years in now.
God damn.
We started in September of 2020. We are literally 5 years in now.
Well, shit. That's what I learned this year. We've been doing this a lot longer than I realized. Whew.
This was our pandemic. This is our pandemic project that's stuck around. So, all right, Rob. Well, before I wrap it up and give a little, retrospective and look ahead to next week, is there anything you'd like to add to this episode?
Well, I will take a moment, as I do every week, to say thank you so much to everyone for listening. Whether you're a first time listener or the repeat listeners that we love so much. Not to say we don't love you, new first timers, but we have a history with these long timers. Um, Thank you. It means the world to us. We are happy to have been here for another year, and we look forward to the years to come. And we hope you do too.
Yes, indeed. And I think that's where we'll leave things for the year. When we sit down each week to tell these stories, it's easy to get wrapped up in the details, the developmental anecdotes, the technological leaps, the unexpected twists in gaming history. Looking back on the year, every episode feels a bit like a snapshot, a moment where we paused our lives just long enough to learn something new and share it with all of you. Some topics were massive, some were strange detours, and some were stories we've been waiting a long time to tell. But together, they form a picture of where we've been as gamers, and maybe even who we've become as podcasters and researchers. So, as 2025 winds down, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving us the space to keep learning, for joining us on the weird and wonderful paths that gaming history takes, and for letting two brothers ramble about the past in hopes of making the present a little more interesting. Next week begins a new year with new stories, new discoveries, and inevitably a few surprises that we don't know yet are coming. But for now, take a breath, enjoy the quiet of the season, and know how grateful we are to have you along for the journey. Next week, we are trading the sweeping reflections of our year end review for something far more intimate and a little bit spooky. We are stepping into the bizarre, charmingly homemade world of Hugo's House of Horrors, a 1990s shareware adventure game created almost entirely by one person. Released at a time when PC gaming was still figuring out what a homebrew scene could look like, Hugo mixed classic text parser gameplay with tongue in cheek humor, light puzzle solving, and a haunted house full of oddball characters. It's a relic from an era when you didn't need a studio, a budget, or even permission, just a computer, a story, and the willingness to put your imagination out into the world. So join us as we tiptoe through its rooms, decipher its quirks, and explore how one tiny game found an unlikely foothold in early PC shareware culture as we take next week's spooky trip down memory card lane. Do the thing.
Skibbity-dim-dum-dum-dum, Happy New Year.